Welcome back to the Andrew Tucker TV, where we give biting, incisive political commentaries on Jamaica, the Caribbean, and the world at large. Now, Jamaica has recently finished and concluded its general elections, and we saw that Andrew Holness emerged as the winner. But this morning, we are going to take a look at the topic, Isat Buchanan shocks Ann-Marie Vaz in Portland Eastern, big lessons for Jamaica. Now, we know by now that Isat Buchanan, having had the recount, is confirmed as the winner of Portland Eastern. That is not debatable anymore. That he has won unequivocally, and nobody can say that he has won, through any amount of, hanky-panky. He seemed to have won his election, the election fair and square. Now, we have Isat Buchanan has pulled off a shocking victory against Ann-Marie Vaz in Portland Eastern. This result has left many Jamaicans talking and wondering what it really means for the future of politics in Jamaica. In this video, we break down the 3 to 4 major lessons from Buchanan's win, the response from Ann-Marie Vaz supporters, and what this upset could signal for the PNP versus GLP battle going forward. And I would say what it means for the nation as a whole. Stay tuned for a deep dive into Jamaican politics, elections, and the lessons every voter should take from this major development. Now, we understand that elections are won through voting, and that each candidate has to be popular among voters. They have to do what the voters want them to do. It's almost like, being on YouTube. They often say that it is not the content that you produce is what do the listeners or the viewers want to hear or to watch that content. It has nothing to do with what you think about the content, but what the viewers think about it, whether or not the content is good or bad. So a lot of my excellent content are the content that are not watched. The content that I would like you to watch are the contents often not watched or viewed by the audience because people watch what they want to watch, and we're not living in a very educated world at the moment, a conscious world. People tend to follow the flow, the current, and the majority. And oftentimes we must be careful of when we're following the majority, because even though we say we vote according to the majority, I would say 9 out of 10 times are incorrect and are leading you on the wrong path. Just read history, right? You'll see that the majority have always been wrong for the most part, right? For the most part, the majority, 9 out of 10 times, the majority are wrong. Very important that you understand that. Now, the Gleaner opened this morning with a story, Land, Loss, and Loyalty. Portland Eastern electors explain Vaz's rejection and Buchanan's crowning. Now, we must understand that these people are people like you and I, and they have their dislikes and they have their likes. And we tend to put people in boxes and say that because the majority suggests that Ann-Marie Vaz was going to win. I thought she was going to win also, so don't get me wrong, but we must understand that we don't live in the constituency, and we must be careful at heaping what we're calling now or launching criticisms at the people who did not vote. First of all, those who did not vote, those who refused to vote for any of the major political parties. Many people are saying, why didn't they vote? Because if the two political parties have not given them an option, that is the intelligent thing to do, not to vote. Why would you vote for something or someone that you are not in agreement with? So that is a principled thing to do. That's a moral thing to do. If having studied both parties, both candidates, you are not convinced that either represents you, then you ought not to vote. There's no obligation to vote in a democracy. You should be able to abstain, just like religion. Or if you don't want to go to church, then that is your right to do so. Of course, church going is something necessary to maintain a certain morality in society and to keep that, the ethical foundations rooted and grounded in society. As we're seeing now, there's a lack of that. So we're seeing our society, tinkering on the brink of collapse, teetering on the brink of a collapse. okay, and collapse in every facets of our lives, economically, politically, socially, religiously, in every facet of our lives, there is a moral decline. So when we start suggesting that Ann-Marie Vaz did not win, right, because the voters did not show up to vote or the people are ungrateful. I've been hearing that too, that the people are ungrateful and they shouldn't be ungrateful. Why are they so ungrateful? Ungrateful about what or for what? I think that the politics in Jamaica is so very basic nowadays that, all the politicians think of doing is to be able to dish out spoils and benefits. So they are carpeting the roads and they are giving you water. And if they give you water and they give you a few bucks here and there for lunch money and to go to parties, then you should vote for them. That is how basic we have become when the infrastructure, education, and a lot of the roads too are not properly maintained. So a lot of what people are complaining about, I understand, from East Portland is that Ann-Marie Vaz was fixing up some of the roads and we could see that on social media, but that was not all the roads that should have been fixed. Okay? And there are lots of roads which are not maintained, which are not fixed, and they were showing them. Oftentimes, you might look at a family and let us say that a husband and the wife might decide, or vice versa, decide to leave his or her spouse. And then you might blame based on what you see. You might think the couple, they were lovely and they were lovey-dovey, dovey. And the fact is that they appeared in your eyes to be a decent, morally upright couple. Doesn't mean, therefore, that you know what happens behind the scenes, behind closed doors, in the precincts of their homes. You don't know. So that is why we have to be careful in not projecting sentiments onto people because we think we know when we do not know. We are not aware of the circumstances and the challenges that the people in Portland Eastern have gone through. Now, mind you, I liked Ann-Marie Vaz. I still like her as a person. Do I know her? I don't know her. I just know her based on what she has published on social media. And social media, and even our media, the mainstream media, these are not outlets that you can believe in 100%. And you are not a conscious person if you're just believing what the hearsay. And what you see coming out of the media are hearsays. They're not things that can be, and I'm not saying aspect of it might not be true, but many of them cannot be confirmed. Okay, so until we go to Portland, until we do our own research on the ground, we cannot vouch for what people are saying and thinking that the people in Portland Eastern should have all just gone and vote for Ann-Marie Vaz, or that she should have won handsomely. She should have won by a landslide. Would not be democracy. Now, if she's doing a great job and she won fairly and squarely, through a landslide victory, absolutely, by all means. But we cannot now begin to, launch our rocks at Isat Buchanan, even though he might not be our preferred candidate, because that is not democracy, and that is emotionalism. We have to learn to respect the decision of the electorate. And we know that the majority of the electorate did not show up for voting. So it is a damning report on both sides of the political aisle. It is a damning report on both sides of the political aisle. Now, my understanding also that Portland Eastern has always been a PNP playground, a very stronghold of the PNP. It was only broken, some years ago when the former MP, that's the PNP MP, died. Died in a very mysterious way. Well, they said that he was brutally killed in his home. And Ann-Marie Vaz ran up against Damon Crawford, and she won. And she won also again by a landslide in 2020. But 2020 was not a normal time. It was time during the pandemic. All right. So she probably did not really win a true win. It wasn't a true victory because many people perhaps did not show up to vote. The same thing happened in Westmoreland. That was also another PNP stronghold, and they arrested that stronghold from the GLP this time around. So the Portland Eastern is within that sort of, purview, in that ambit. where it was once a PNP stronghold and it has now been given back. The PNP has now reclaimed that stronghold. Remember now that when we look at the election that was recently held, 20, well, I'm understanding now it's 35 seats because Kingston Central has now gone to the PNP, the GLP, right? It was declared in the preliminary results for the PNP, but that was Steve McGregor, but it has now been given back based on the recounts and the counting of the entire ballots. It has been given back to the GLP under the leadership of Donovan Williams. So that is what we need to understand. Now, there are some people who are giving their views in the Jamaica Observer this morning. Ann-Marie Vaz's defeat in Portland Eastern has sparked passionate debate among some university students who say they were surprised to see her lose to People's National Party newcomer Isat Buchanan in the September 3rd, 2025 general election. Vaz, widely known for her hands-on approach and visible work in the constituency, which gained her the moniker Action Ann, received 8,181 votes to Buchanan's 8,316 votes, a result that sent shockwaves around the island. Okay, and it shockwaves among those who don't understand the political reality of Portland Eastern to be specific. The young audience, now analyzing her defeat, have concurred that party loyalty was a main factor. Well, party loyalty is a main factor for any party. All right. We know that many of this was an election of the diehards. All right. The diehards voted for PNP or GLP. So why are you now attacking the fact that if they had voted, if Ann-Marie Vaz had emerged as the winner of Portland Eastern, it would be the same reality. It would have been that the diehards voted for her. Why do we think that because we have this opinion, it means that it's objective and it represents the objective reality? Now, again, I must confess, I thought Ann-Marie Vaz was going to win, but we must be able to do and to take introspective look at what we think or a judgment, and sometimes we have to reassess what we think and come up with a different sort of viewpoint, shouldn't we? Party loyalty has a significant impact in my eyes based on the fact that there are several people still voting based on their allegiance to a party because of their family's perspective. And Portland Eastern has been a PNP dominant area over the years, so party loyalty is definitely a factor, Junior told the Jamaica Observer. And other areas, other GLP areas also have been, and they have won, because many people did not show up to vote. Many people did not show up to vote in the general elections. Okay, so many people are suggesting that she pointed out that Vaz made, this is a person from University of the West Indies, Chicola Chambers, who pointed out that Vaz made several efforts to uplift the constituency through paving roads. Right, basic things that they should be doing. You're right, and this is a university student thinking that way. This is how basic our politics have become right now. Okay, that you think the paving of road, which is a basic thing that they should be doing with taxpayers' money. It's not their money. Sponsoring programs aimed at providing residents with a skill at no cost, and even doing holiday treats for families, entertainment. So they're doing this sort of, superficial things that they do, where they invite you to parties and you dance and all of that, but what is she doing for education? I think she did do some things for education, I must say. She helped with the tuition fees and all of that. She did say that. She's always talking about and posting all the work that she's done for her community. She's one with the community. It's not just a performance. How do you know that? Their complaint was road can't eat, but she provided a way for people to make their own money through the PAVE, Portland Arts and Vocational Education Center, where they could trade or they could learn trades for free, Chambers suggested. But there is also another perspective that the Observer gave, which I would like you to know. Now, there's another perspective here where I see a lot of the people acting as though no one in the Portland Eastern area could have voted against Ann-Marie for valid or legitimate reasons. I see a lot of people implying that no one in the Portland Eastern area could have voted against her because maybe they are genuinely dissatisfied with the quality of her work. I see a lot of people behaving as though the people in the Portland Eastern area no longer deserve to have their constituency further developed and to have their qualms taken seriously by our government because they selected someone they deemed to be the lesser of the two. I don't think that that's right, and I don't think that's fair. And she's right. Taylor expressed concern for the Portlanders going forward because she feels as though people will use their decision as an excuse to turn a blind eye to them should they ever be in need. Taylor urged Jamaicans to remember that members of parliament are ultimately civil servants put in place for the betterment of the people, and that regardless of who the people chose to represent them, they are deserving of representation. And she's right. She's right. Whomever they choose, it might not be your preferred candidate. Right now, many people, Andrew Holness has emerged as the winner of the election. He's now the prime minister designate. Many people don't like it, I'm sure, but he is the one that won. I wouldn't say that he's the one that Jamaicans have chosen, as we normally say, because we tend to generalize. But he's the one that his party diehards have selected to govern Jamaica. And ultimately, because he won, we have to accept, following the democratic process, that he has been selected. We have to accept that he has been selected. That is what we have to understand. Okay? Now, what are the lessons to be learned from this loss by Ann-Marie Vaz to Isat Buchanan of the PNP? One, we live in a so-called democracy, so candidates have a right to vote for whomever they want to, even if they're diehards. And remember now that Jamaican political system, the political landscape is dominated by diehards. I had a very hard time getting YouTube to send my videos out because many of the subscribers to other Jamaican political commentaries are diehards, and they just wanted to hear what they wanted to hear. So they went on the Ratigan programs and the Neck We Talk with Jeffrey, all PNP program. And the Dion Jackson Millers, PNP, batting for the PNP, right? And the GLP, you have your Jamaican politics or the GLP politics and all of them who are batting for the GLP. And they wanted to hear what these people, many of whom were not saying anything, had to say about what was going on in Jamaica. So Jamaica is a die-hard political country. People just vote based on their political affiliation, not on policies, not on development. They're not voting for that. They're not voting even on corruption allegations, charges of corruption allegations. They're not voting on that. So the PNP could have, shouted and screamed all the political, what do you call it now, corruption from here to Timbuktu. That would not have caused Andrew Holness's diehard followers. It wouldn't have budged and it would not have impacted them an inch because they were sure that they were going to vote for Andrew Holness. And an attack on him was an attack on them. And they were willing to defend him to the core. And that's what they did. And they voted for him. And likewise, we saw where the PNP diehards, remember now that the election was very close, 35 to 28 standing at the moment, right? It's 25 to 28, thereabout, yeah. 35 to 28. Because the Kingston Central, the GLP has now copped that seat. Okay? Now, another lesson we can learn is that, and I'm saying this to Ann-Marie Vaz, and I'm saying it to myself and to all people who are leaders out there. I have held leadership positions before. And one of the things that we have to understand as leaders, you must bear a certain aura. You must have, when you walk in the room, people must sense that you are a leadership. You must stand out. And I'm not suggesting to you that you are going to behave as if you're better than your followers. You shouldn't. But you must command their respect. Ann-Marie Vaz, you're dancing and winding up yourself to all music and being too familiar with your constituents. When I say too familiar, yes, winding up and in the most sometimes despicable way. I sometimes do not like to see what you are doing on the streets. You must remember that you are not just an ordinary citizen. You are a member of parliament, and you have to have that aura. You must have that bearing. which I think that we're losing in Jamaica day by day. We no longer have that bearing of a leader. We look ordinary. Many of our leaders look too ordinary. And because of that, your followers are not going to respect you. Make no bones about it. Sometimes we think because we dance and we are, and in Jamaica, in the parlance of Jamaica, we're being humble. Him humble, you see? She humble, you see? Right. But the same people who are saying that are the same ones who are going to vote against you because they see you at their level. And they must not see you at their level. And I'm not saying that being at a superior level doesn't mean that you are superior to the person. It just means that you have a superior position, right? That is what we mean. The prime minister cannot behave as an ordinary citizen because he has a much more elevated responsibility, a much more elevated position. The head boy of a school, the teacher of a school. And I've seen many teachers who have tried to be too familiar with their students. And some of the things that the students say about them is, are despicable. So I think Action Ann and all of us who have held and were leaders in our own rights need to understand that we need not to get too familiar with our followers, with people who are under us, whom we're leading. Very important that we understand that. And Ann-Marie Vaz was too familiar with her constituents. And they might have lost some amount of the respect that they have for her. We can't, because familiarity breeds contempt. There is a lot of truth in that adage. Familiarity breeds contempt. Whether you're a parent, don't be or get too familiar with your children. They must see you as their parents, and they must see you in the capacity of a leader. Very important that you understand, and I think Action Ann needs to learn that. Another lesson that we need to understand in Action Ann also is that, yeah, with a leader, you are going to be defeated. You can either win or lose. And when you lose, you can't be a sore loser. You have to admit that you have lost. And then you begin now to look at objectively at the reasons why you lost. Sometimes some of them were fair, some of the things might be unfair to you, but that is life. We have to take our knocks and then we get up and we move on. Very important that we understand that. Now, the final point I want to make, lesson, is that our leaders need to understand that it's the taxpayers' money that they're using to fix up roads and all the things that they say they're doing. Now, I understand that Ann-Marie Vaz might say that she did use some of her money out of her pocket. The teachers do that all the time. The teachers do that all the time. And they get far less money than you are earning, and opportunities for projects that you have, that they don't have access to. So you're telling us that you're using your money because it cancels out, it balances out when you look at the fact that you have access to a lot of things, resources that the typical Jamaica doesn't have access to. So I don't buy that argument at all. I don't buy that argument at all. Not impressed by that argument. I'm not. Okay? And I'm hearing this carpeting of roads and the people are ungrateful. No. Don't say the people are ungrateful until you have done your research. And I'm hearing again, the Gleaner brought the story this morning. I'm not able to read it because the Gleaner is not allowed to put up the story. But the whole matter of land, the whole loss of land, and the fact that some of the beaches, Blue Lagoon, I understand, has been privatized. And these were some of the situations, the displeasure, the disenchantment demonstrated by the voters. That Ann-Marie Vaz and her husband, and somebody asked me, how can they sell something that doesn't belong to them? Well, let me say something to you. Business and politics are merged. Business and politics, go hand in glove. Okay, and that's why they send the politicians there to Gordon House to make the laws that suit them. Okay, so that they can do whatever they want to do, and then they will run roughshod over our people. That is what they're doing. So don't think because Ann-Marie Vaz and her husband don't own land or the other members of parliament, if the donors have given money to them to run for the election, they have to do what is in favor of that business entrepreneurial class. And that is what Jamaicans have to understand. They're not there for the most part to represent you. And if you understand that, then you will begin to complain and you'll begin to stand up against them and say, no, roads need to be fixed, hospitals need to be built, and if you don't get these things done in the next 5 years or so, we're not going to vote for you. It will make them work harder. But we just care about carpeting a few roads and having a few parties here and there, paying a tuition here and there, and that is sufficient. That is what the MPs think that they're there to do. And the entire infrastructure, the majority of infrastructure in these parishes are collapsing. And as I end the video, I don't have to say, because, you can see when the Prime Minister and these members of parliament were going across the country, you could see the deterioration of the roads. Prime Minister Andrew Holness was in Halfway Tree, handing out, distributing pamphlets, flyers to people to vote for him. And the state of the road, it wasn't like the Halfway Tree road was not filled with a lot of, it was not pothole ridden, but the fact of the matter is that it wasn't paved either. It looked very, very rural. Okay? The roads were not properly marked and they were not properly paved. And this is Halfway Tree. This is the city, the urban center of Jamaica. Halfway Tree, a very important part of Kingston and St. Andrew. And yet still the roads were looking as if they were in rural Jamaica. Not impressive at all. The entire world was seeing, and the Prime Minister was right on the road, and nothing really moved him to say the roads need to be paved. Okay? And to be carpeted and to be properly marked. Right? It didn't move him. Just was there winding up and jumping up and thinking, and Jamaica is there to the world. Nothing impressive about that. A lot of the images coming out of Jamaica are not impressive at all. And it's time for us as Jamaicans to demand more of our MPs and the Prime Minister himself and tell them, no, we're not going to vote until Miss Action Ann, we see action and not a bag of mouth. That is what we need to take to them, action and not a bag of mouth. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'd like, share, and subscribe. Like the video so the videos can be shared with as many people on the platform. See you in another one. Ciao.